Okay, I said I'd make a trussing video on my next Culetello, and what we have here is a manga Culetello, courtesy of Justin Dean. And this has been in the cure for quite a while now. I'll post in the description the actual date from my logs, but this is, was EQ'd, so it's been in my fridge for, could be well over a month now. So it's been trussed up. I gave it a rinse with water, and I rinsed it with red wine, so hence the red napkin here. So this side's looking good, nice and smooth, and the other side has a little kind of pit in it. We want to get rid of that. Kind of sometimes breaks your heart to have to shave this off, but it can be used in something else. But the idea is to get, no rough surfaces and places where that can hold air under the casing. So I'm just kind of smoothing out, kind of leveling it off down to this pit, and then I'll use this scrap for something else. I know I need to sharpen my knife, so I'm going to kind of go around here and round this up a little bit, and when the casing gets pulled up against it, it'll do a degree of kind of pulling it tight. So that's acceptable. So we'll take this stuff, put it over here, and we'll use that in something else. Now what I've got is I have this pig bladder here. And most of the time pig bladders need to be cut open. Well, I guess maybe all of the time. So this one's quite large, much larger than I'm going to need. So I'm just going to take my scissors, and I could probably use a better scissors than this. But we just got to open this up a little bit, just enough to get this Culetello inside the bladder. I think that's probably good enough. So we're going to leave this case trussing on the Culetello and slide the bladder over it. Okay, and then we're going to tighten it up. We're going to sew it up along the sides here. And like I said, wow, look at that. I wish I had this casing on my last Culetello, where I actually had to mend a graft in from a bung because it wasn't big enough. This one's like way big, so actually what I'm going to be doing is I'll cut off some of this slack here so that when I stitch it up, it'll be stitched up right around the entire Culetello. And so we'll get that going. Okay, we'll cut it along here. Making sure that I have enough overlap. So we'll say right about there. Okay. So now it's just a matter of taking this and sewing it all up. I'll probably cut off a little bit more when I'm done sewing. And of course, we'll do a good tight sew job, but we'll rely on the trussing to kind of pull it as tight as it needs to be. Okay, I got my trusty needle threaded up. I'm using the heaviest twine that can be bought at the craft butcher's pantry, and I do a double knot on the end. These bladders are pretty tough, so you don't need to pull it crazy, but it doesn't pull through, at least on the other ones that I've used. Okay, so we'll just go down here and start pulling it tight. And it's just kind of seaming it up along the side here. So I got a little extra flap here. I'll Go ahead and trim that off. With each stitch, I'm going further back onto the casing so that I can pull it tight. We want to try to get it just at least, not so much slack in the casing. We want it to be relatively tight around it. So I might be taking kind of like a larger bite when I thread my needle down, and that's okay if you get a little more built up. Okay. Okay, next we're going to take enough twine to go around the casing. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 times. We're doing the vertical ribs, I guess, going along at first. So I'm literally going to take enough twine out so that I can go 1, 2 along each side. I'm going to twist it. I want to be able to go. So actually you can start with the end of the twine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we'll give a little more just for some extra cutoff. Okay, and then when we get this length that we want, we're going to go exactly in half. So I'm literally kind of folding the twine in half to have 2 equal parts. Okay, and when I have that loop up front, this loop right here is going to be the first up at the top. And I'm going to take this and bring it down here along the sides, just perfectly along each side. And I'm going to cross it down at the bottom. Okay, and give it, kind of pull it tight. And then we're going to rotate the whole thing and put the rib up at the top. Now, since I'm only doing 6, I'm not going to do exactly, on the other hand, I'm going to kind of offset it a little bit, because I'm going to go up here on one side, along here, and do the same thing up at the top. Give it a, kind of pull it tight, give it a roll back a little bit, kind of like you're doing a parcel. Okay, and then we're going to come back down for the final ribs along here. Now these can be adjusted after you get it around. So that's going to be good enough for me. And I'm going to tie it tight down at the bottom. And then we're going to do a butcher's knot. Here's how we do a butcher's knot. And that's just like a knot that we can pull the slack out of. Doesn't matter that it travels up the side a little bit. And we'll, like I said, we'll adjust these ribs. Actually, I'm going to pull some slack out of it real quick so that I can better adjust these ribs. Because basically in the end we want to have these ribs kind of equal distance. So we'll kind of go around it, get them ribs just where we want them. See, here's one where I got 2 of them together. So we're going to spread these out. Okay, so nice even rib. This is going to be the framework of our side-to-side trussing. Okay, let's finish that butcher's knot. And we'll cut off the slack. Okay, so now we have our lateral ribs, I guess, equally spaced. Now when we put our other sections on here, we'll be able to really pull that tight. Everything will tighten up. It'll also tighten the casing up. Go ahead and get the pricker out so that it can be pushing out that air as we truss it up. Okay, next we are going to be doing this in several sections, so you don't have to worry about the length of twine here. We'll go ahead and just pull out a good amount and we'll cut it off. So I'm using just I don't know, I got probably a 3 foot piece of twine coming, and we're going to start tying it. Just tie it onto the bottom. Okay, and then it's just a matter of going around to each rib, going over the top and coming back, so then that way when we pull it, you can see how we kind of give it a little bit of pressure on that rib, okay, because we're going to come back over and we're going to go to the next one. Again, over the top, coming back the way that we're coming back the direction that we're tying, so kind of get a good look at the bottom. And then we're going to come over to this rib here, going over the top. Okay, when we run out of string, we'll just be able to tie on another piece. And of course I like to get each of my ribs kind of lined up even. I mean, you're able to do it if you want to take the time, but you pull a little bit of tension this way. You see how you pull that lateral rib to the right a little bit, okay, and then we're going to equalize it out when we pull it to the left to go to the next rib. Okay, so now I need to get another piece of string, and my preferred knot here of choice is the square knot. I'll get another 3 feet or so out. And here's my square knot. I'll literally take it just like you might expect. Pull it, and I will trim it. Okay, so now we have our next length that we can continue trussing on around. Okay, you kind of see, you want to see your casing kind of bulge out between each truss. That makes you understand that it's tight in there. And you're getting all the air out. So when people see these really tight, nice truss jobs, it's not because I'm just trying to make it look pretty. I'm actually trying to get the air, give it an equal pressure all the way around the product so that the air gets pushed out when you pull the trussing tighter. See, this is an opportunity to kind of go back, pull your last rib tighter, come around. Okay, so now that we're further up on the product, I want to show you a little closer how I'm pulling the tension on each truss. See, now these lateral strings are getting really tight. It's difficult for me to get my finger under there and pull it up so that I can get my twine under there because they're getting really tight. Every time I go around the product and pull these ribs tight, it's making everything really tight. It's making the meat kind of bulge out between each rib. And so I'm really pulling it tight, and it's just making everything, it's making it tighter so that it pulls the air out. So here's a close-up again of how I'll kind of pull the pressure to where I'll literally pull that lateral rib further over to the right, because I know that when I go to the next one, I'm going to pull it back. So I'm going to be visually straightening it out. When I go over the other rib, you know, I might come back here and retighten this one up, okay, and then come over here on the next one, pull it over, and again pulling it back over to the next one, continuing all around, just visually spacing each of the trusses. And now it's time for me to get another piece of twine. I'll get another 3-foot length out. See, now these trusses are so tight that I now need to stick something under it in order to get the twine through. Okay, and in order to do my hanger, what I like to do is get kind of double up a piece of twine that's long enough, and then I go down through all of the cross sections of the 6, and I got this little special scissors that I don't know how I'd function without, because this is so tight at this point that I need to pull this all the way through. And then I tie it. Square knot at the top's fine. And that's it. Culetello ready for hanging.